When the Underworld wave first broke across my desk, part of the pitch was that there was a series of stories here. Now we're actually in the backstory. The backstory is the forestory.
It was in the first script. And it was always, that was Len's design from the beginning.
In the original film, there were genetic memories, and the genetic memories talked of the time when Lucian was in love with Victor's daughter, Sonia.
For Sonia and those things you discover in the first movie, so clearly it was already all set up.
This is the original forbidden relationship. This is the one that started the war in the first place.
And of course it is forbidden love. They're star-crossed lovers. It is like Romeo and Juliet.
Extreme Romeo and Juliet.
Lucian is a very powerful slave and has athletic and fighting skills that the other humans don't have. And he and Sonia were both children together, and she always sort of admired his physical prowess, and as they became adults, admired him more.
You realize they've been having an experience for a long time. So we never quite see the very first time they meet, but we are jumping into their relationship when the movie started.
There's been an attraction there, something pulling them together. This is not something that either of them ever planned for. And in fact, for Lucian, it completely gets in the way of what he wants to do. He ultimately wants to be able to get out of this place.
It was a bit of a sort of love at first sight across a courtyard. The reason why the relationship between Lucian and Sonia has to remain so hush-hush is because the consequences are fatal.
The dilemma for them is basically Lucian needs to escape one day. This is his primary mission in his life, is to escape and free all those Lycans. Yet he doesn't want to do that and lose her. So this is where the whole conflict of the movie happens. Is she going to come with him? She wants to be with him. She doesn't want to bring him at risk. And you have this kind of very tortured relationship and situation that creates basically the tension in the movie.
There's a lot of things that they don't really want to focus on because of this relationship. And I think one of those is probably how far Victor will go to stop it. It gives a certain, I suppose, excitement and danger to it as well.
So you want me to stay here for you? Like this, like an animal?
Lucian.
Any other species being co-joined sexually with a vampire would profoundly disturb him. The fact that it's a werewolf makes it inexpressibly terrible. The fact that it's his daughter makes it enough to have his head explode. It's the single worst thing that could possibly occur in Victor's world.
God, Joe!
I love him.
No! You have betrayed me! To be with an animal!
The birth of Lucian marked the creation of a different race.
Lucian, in some ways, is an aberration, is a creature that comes out of nowhere almost. This female werewolf gives birth to a child that looks human. We don't tell the story of what happened before, but this is something that's never happened. That kid obviously doesn't become a true human being, he becomes what we call a Lycan.
What do you think, son? Shall we make more?
Of him?
Like him?
He's the first of that kind, and he becomes the master leader of the Lycan clan.
A man once bitten by a werewolf turns into a werewolf and never changes into a human until he's killed.
Lycans have the ability to change.
The Lycan is a different being.
He was used to create the whole Lycan race, which was brought into being by Victor as slaves, as the labor class of the vampire world. They're also immortal, but they are not as cultured, and they're not as high status as the vampires are.
Those creatures can be actually handled by keeping them away from transforming, by having those colors they wear with silver. As soon as the contact of the silver goes with the skin of a Lycan turning, brings him back to the human state.
Those humans become the slave, and they're controlled that way by Victor.
Lucian is someone who, doesn't like seeing the other Lycans acting like animals. He wants to be more than that. And that's, I suppose, there's a kind of an envy of the vampires, an envy of their elegance and sophistication and non-animal likeness.
He hates the werewolf for what they made him be. And he's also feeling very responsible for all those Lycans creatures that he has created, even not with his own will, but he feels very, very distressed by that. That first mission that he has, I believe, as he's growing up, is to free those people.
That moment when Lucian turns into a wolf in front of them, the werewolves are cowed by this. It actually turns out to be a pivotal moment, because that's the moment when Lucian also recognizes that these werewolves, these creatures that he has hunted and killed his entire life, actually may have more in common with him than his ostensible masters, the vampires. And of course, as the story progresses, that bond becomes stronger and stronger, and in the end, that becomes a huge factor in what allows Lucian to finally triumph.
So it gave us a chance to create yet a fresher, new character for this one.
In our story, unbeknownst to Lucian, Victor killed his mother and then keeps Lucian in the castle. So Lucian has to grow up with the man who killed his mother. But now he doesn't know that that happened. But nevertheless, he has to grow up with the man who keeps him ultimately a slave and a captive. So that relationship, I think, is a very interesting one, that Lucian has learned to bide his time, keep quiet, keep his head down, and yet there is obviously this unique relationship between him and Victor.
You are a credit to your race. Do you know how to remain so? Keep your eyes on the ground.
He has an enthusiasm for Lucian as a weapon. There is also a suggestion that Victor, apart from all of that, makes a kind of connection with Lucian, that he has a sentimental connection with him.
You have stung me, Lycan, with your betrayal.
Ironically, both of the main characters of this film died in the first Underworld. It's a unique challenge to bring back two characters who have died publicly. Lucian started off being the bad guy, and you realize 3/4 of the way through the film, actually, no, he's not the bad guy. He's actually kind of the good guy. And it's Victor, who you thought all along was sort of the patriarchal protector of the vampires. He's the one that ended up being the bad guy.
It was fantastic bringing back the cast members, and actually, Underworld 3 offers the most dynamic roles for both Michael Sheen and Bill Nye.
To be able to get Bill back, and Kevin and Michael and Stephen McIntosh, and that was really exciting to me.
It was already some sort of we're part of the family. And our first encounter after all these years was very, very pleasant. They were very open-minded and very interested, it felt, to have someone like me be part of the new project.
I knew those people would deliver the performance, and that was the one thing that was in my mind, was like, okay, I've got that. As soon as the story was created, the studio went to Michael, because obviously there was no way to do this movie without him.
There. Oh, no, there. I don't know what that spin was.
Bring so much passion that it burst out on screen.
I had to put Michael in a place where he was fitting, he could give me everything. It's about letting them breathe, and then when they come to you, say, I loved it, this, that. And that was how I work.
He has thought through the motivations and the obstacles that this character has to overcome very thoroughly. And he is treating the character of Lucian with the exact same amount of sincerity and commitment that he would have any other role.
He really buffed up for this film, as theater actors do. When they take a job, they take it very seriously. And he took training and weightlifting and exercise really seriously. So there are moments in this movie where you see him, you know, with his shirt off and this torso that is fantastic.
It's obviously involved a fair amount of work on my part to try and get into some sort of shape that, you know, I can convince people that I'm as young or younger than I was in the first film. But also just a sort of a fascinating puzzle in a way, in that you start to find interesting ways of showing how he got to be who he is, and that's one of the most exciting things about the film for me, is putting that together in a way that hopefully is not obvious, and at the same time is not just a sort of intellectual exercise, that it's something that an audience can relate to emotionally as well.
We had to actually think of a way to figure out what the character was at the roots of its life, you know, and that was interesting, the reinvention.
In order for him to become a leader and to fulfill his destiny, he has to accept something about himself that he has been fighting against all his life. And for me, that was the element of the story that most interested me, and I think is one that allows an audience, hopefully will allow an audience to empathise with what is going on and take it sort of slightly further than just a kind of epic, myth-like story. By the end of the film, he's achieved a victory, but he's also lost something very precious to him. And so he's a sort of in some ways, he's a very melancholy figure, Lucian.